I'm Frank Capra, Jr. This picture, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, was one of the most difficult for my father to get started with. But of course, once he got started, it was fine. He'd had a long period of time after it happened one night, which was so successful, won all 5 major Academy Awards. It's a very successful picture in the box office. For a number of years held the record for the most play dates of any film ever. And it was very hard for him to come to his next project. He had been sick and he'd had a tough time with that. He eventually decided he was going to make a picture, but he wasn't sure what he wanted to make, and he was looking at some stories, not original screenplays, but some books that he thought might work as films. And he kind of settled on 2 possible. One was a Maxwell Anderson piece called Valley Forge, and another was a piece called Opera Hat, and it was an American story, a story that he knew he could deal with. It was about an honest man. And he got interested in what would happen if an honest man in the middle of the Depression, which frankly was not far from being over by any means, when he made the picture, in the middle of the Depression, a man inherits a huge amount of money, and he's an honest man, an honest, humble, and sort of Western man. And he got his favorite writer, Robert Riskin, to do the screenplay. He bought the book, and again with Harry Cohen, it was always, most of the time Harry wouldn't even read the books. He'd just say, can you make the picture at the budget, and will it make money? And my father said, yes, it will.
Welcome to Mandrake Falls, where the scenery enthralls, where no hardship e'er befalls. Welcome to Mandrake
He knew
Falls.
that because of his success on It Happened One Night, he could get a pretty good contract from Harry Cohen. Matter of fact, this is one of the first pictures that he was able to use his name above the title, and it was a Frank Capra production. A lot of people, working American directors, didn't have that, maybe better known ones even. But Harry Cohen was smart enough to know that if he gave my dad that, that was something he could give, at the same time get the loyalty, and was something that my father wanted because it distanced him from any other directors. And he always wanted to be sure that in his mind, he was the best director in the business, and he wanted to be sure everybody knew about it. And I think everybody pretty much did know that.
Talks to anybody.
I guess we better try somebody else.
No, we won't. The next time that jumping jack comes out, I'll straddle him while you ask him your questions.
Good morning, neighbors.
Remember us? We're the fellows who were here a minute ago.
Oh, yeah. Yes, indeedy. I never forget a face.
Listen, Pop. We've come all the way from New York to look up a fellow by the name of Deeds. It's important. It's very important.
You don't have to get rough, neighbor. All you got to do is ask.
Then please pretend for just one fleeting moment that I'm asking. Where does he reside?
Who? Longfellow Deeds. Where does he live? Oh, that's what you want. Well, why didn't you say so in the first place instead of beating around the bush? Those other fellows don't know what they're talking about. Come on. I'll take you there in my car. If you'd only explain to me what they want, there wouldn't be no trouble.
Oh, will you come in, please, gentlemen?
Mr. Deeds in?
No, he's over to the park, arranging the bazaar so as to raise money for the fire engine. Mal, you should have known he was in the park.
Know it all the time, but these men said they wanted to see the house. Can't read the minds if they don't say what they want.
Come in, please. Come in. Can I get you a cup of tea?
No, thank you.
Sit down. Sure I couldn't get you a glass of lemonade or something.
That's very kind of you. Are you related to him?
No, I'm his housekeeper.
Well, we'd like to find out something about him. What does he do for a living?
He and Jim Mason own the Tallow Works. But that's not where he makes his money. He makes most of it from his poetry.
He writes poetry?
Oh, my goodness, yes. Longfellow's famous. He writes all those things on postcards. You know, for Christmas.
When he
and
came to
Easter and
do
birthdays.
this picture, there was the casting, and he only had one person in mind. He always had Gary Cooper in mind. He wanted a sort of a Western look. He wanted an honest, humble sort of guy who he felt could, keep playing the tuba when he was told that he'd just inherited all this money.
Here he is now.
I suggest you break it to him gently. He's liable to keel over from the shock.
They've been waiting a long while.
Who are they?
I don't know.
Mr. Longfellow Deeds?
Yes?
How do you do?
How do you do?
I'm John Cedar, of the New York firm of Cedar, and Budington.
Von Sternberg, Joseph von Sternberg,
Budington.
told him in this scene
Budington
that he couldn't have his hero just continue to play the tuba after being told he'd got all this money, because he would look like a dope, an idiot. And another director told him, "Oh, you can't have a hero who's accused of insanity. Oh, no, you can't have that because it demeans your hero." But I think you judge from yourselves that
You gentlemen going to stay
the
for
father's
lunch?
judgments in this were probably right on. He always decided he would just begin to not play by anybody's rules. He would just trust his own judgments and go for broke. If that seemed like the right thing to do, he would do it.
I never saw him, but my mother's name was Simple.
He also felt that because of the success of It Happened One Night,
That's too bad.
that he knew he could entertain, and he knew he could do films in an entertaining fashion, which would keep an audience.
He left it all to you, Mr. Deeds.
But he also began to feel that he wanted to do a little bit more.
$20 million.
I think what more he wanted to do was that he wanted to try to say some things about that I think he'd been feeling for quite a while, but that were basically because they sort of might have felt to him like something of a message. He didn't really want to do message films by any means, and I think he was right. He had some ideas, he had thoughts, he had his relation from coming here as an immigrant and how he felt about the country, how he felt about the individual, how he felt about the chances that somebody would have here. I'm sure the depression around him began to disturb him because at that time, strangely enough, Hollywood was very busy. The Depression was a period of time when Hollywood's films were making huge amounts of money.
And then there's the newspapers to handle. One must know when to seek publicity and when to avoid it.
Cedar, 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 and Budington. It's funny, I can't think of a rhyme for Budington.
Why should you?
Well, whenever I run across a funny name, I like to poke around for a rhyme, don't you?
No.
I got one for Cobb.
Yeah?
There once was a man named Cobb who kept Semple away from the mob. Came the turn of the tide, and Semple, he died. Now, poor Cobb's out of a job.
Sounds like a 2 weeks' notice to me.
Huh?
I've gotten the sackaroo in many ways, but never in rhyme.
Oh, I don't mean that. I'm sure I'm going to need your help.
Oh, that's different if it's just poetry.
Are you a married man, Mr. Deeds?
Oh, me? No.
No, he's too fussy for that. That's what's the matter with him. There's lots of nice girls right here in Mandrake Falls that are dying to be married.
Don't pay any attention to her.
He's got a lot of foolish notions about saving a lady in distress.
Now, you keep out of this.
Ah, saving a lady in distress, eh? Well, I suppose we all have dreams like that when we're young. Well, incidentally, we better get started. You'll have to pack.
What for?
You're going to New York with us.
When?
This afternoon, 4 o'clock.
I don't think we got any suitcases.
Well, we could borrow a couple from Mrs. Simpson. You know, she went to Niagara Falls last year.
I'm kind of nervous. I've never been away from Mandrake Falls in my life. Kind of like to see Grant's tomb, though.
Well, I can understand that. We'll take a walk around town, meet you at the train at 4 o'clock. Congratulations, Mr. Deeds. You're one of the richest men in the country. I'll see you later. Goodbye, thank you.
See you later, kid.
Good day, sir. Do you hear what he said? Do you know how much 20 million is?
I don't care how much it is. You sit right there and eat your lunch. You haven't touched a thing.
And I think Gary Cooper fit the role perfectly. I got to know Mr. Cooper a little bit when I was young, and he and his wife and his family lived not very far from us. And his daughter was one of my sister's very best friends and continues to be very good friends with her today. And he did, in person, certainly seem to be the same kind of person that we saw in this film. And I know my dad liked just the honest look on his face, and that was, to him, the most important part of the casting on this picture for the lead, was that he be an honest man who takes this money and decides that he's going to give it away. And that it be real, and that you don't, as an audience, disbelieve that you make it believable that he would do that.
Goodbye, Mrs. Meredith. Goodbye, Jim. Hey, buddy.
Gosh, I got a lot of friends.
Have a drink?
No, thanks.
You have a cigar?
No, thank you.
I wouldn't worry if I were you. Of course, a large fortune like this entails a great responsibility, but you'll have a good deal of help. So don't worry. Leave everything to me.
No, I wasn't worried about that.
No?
I was wondering where they're going to get another tuba player for the band.
Hello, John. What do you mean?
The system that Harry Cohen had devised to save money was that when his directors were working, they could shoot takes, but they couldn't print the takes, because the printing of a take was the cost of taking the negative and printing a positive of it, and it practically doubled the cost of the film between just the negative and then you added a print to it. You doubled the amount of money that you spent there. So he couldn't stop the directors from shooting takes, but he could stop them from printing them. So he had a dictum about one take could be printed. Whatever you thought was the best take, you'd maybe make 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever. Although he didn't like you to go anything like that many. He was hoping you'd only go 2 or 3. Whatever the best one was, that's the one you got to print, and that's it. My dad kind of chafed under that. First of all, he didn't like the idea of being told that he could only do one print. Thought he was, his judgment was better than anyone else's about that, and so he wanted the right to do what he wanted. But he didn't want to just deliberately antagonize Cohen, so he began to think about what else he could do. And what he came up with was an idea that he would shoot the scene, and my father often used multiple cameras, so that in this scene that we're looking at, he might have this one camera on this actor, and then one camera on Jean Arthur, and one camera on the rest of the people, which would kind of be the master, and he would shoot them simultaneously. One of the things that did was that in little pieces of business, like Gene over there trying to tie a knot in the rope, would match. So that in case that they come to the long shot, she'd be doing exactly the same thing as she would be in the close-up. So she could match her stuff. And when he started doing that, he began to realize that sometimes, even though he'd shoot separate takes, but the one actor might be better in the take than the other, and so he'd have a hard time printing one camera only and then another and then a third. So it became a kind of a problem of logistics. He ended up getting around that by just continuing the scene. He'd shoot the scene, the first take, and instead of saying cut, as soon as the scene was over, he would say, okay, now start it again, right away. And the camera would just keep rolling. And then he might do it a third time. Yeah, start it again, keep rolling. That way he was able to print 2 takes on one, because it would all be one take. So it was, well, gosh, Harry, I'm just printing one take. It happened to be a pretty long one, but anyway. So, but what he began to realize was that pretty invariably, the second and third takes were better. That the actors, they didn't have time to go back and comb their hair or think about other things or get on the telephone or do anything. They were there in the set. They were standing there waiting. The scene was over. They'd start right again. They were in the mood. It was as if the first run-through was a rehearsal. And he would invariably get, he felt, better takes, and he began to do that as a regular technique. And he did it on this film and many of his subsequent films. And a number of other directors have picked up on that and begun to do it. And you see it fairly commonly done now, where a director will say, okay, just let's go through it again right away while the camera's still rolling.
Send that telegram to Jim Mason yet?
Jim Mason? Oh, yeah. No, I didn't send it. I've got it written out, though. Here it is. Arthur's been with the Tallow Works too long. Stop. Don't think we should fire him. Longfellow.
That's fine. Send it right away. I don't want him to fire Arthur.
Oh, sure. We don't want to fire Arthur.
He was the last baby my father delivered, Arthur was.
I think you ought to give this matter some thought, Mr. Deeds.
Huh?
I mean about the power of attorney.
Oh, yes, I will. I'll give it a lot of thought. There's a fellow named Winslow here a little while ago wanted to handle my business for nothing, too. Puzzles me why these people all want to work for nothing. It isn't natural. So I guess I better think about it some more.
That's that.
You go to an awful lot of work to keep the fellow warm.
See Raymond Walburn in the background there. Another actor that he used a number of times, Lionel Stander. Often you can tell his films just from the actors that he uses. He and John Ford both often used a number of the same actors, kind of their little actor studio.
Mr. Deeds, I represent Mrs. Semple.
Mrs. Semple?
Yes, your uncle's common-law wife. She has a legal claim on the estate.
Oh, we let the courts decide what her legal...
You wouldn't dare go into court with a case like this, and you know it. I leave it to you, Mr. Deeds. Can you conceive of any court not being in sympathy with a woman who gave up the best years of her life for an old man like your uncle?
What kind of a wife did you say she was?
Common-law wife. And on top of that, there's a child.
Child? My uncle?
Yes, sir.
Why, that's awful. The poor woman should be taken care of immediately.
Well, I'm glad to see you're willing to be reasonable, Mr. Deeds.
If she was his wife, she should have all the money. That's only fair. I don't want a penny.
Don't make any
You
rash
better get right
promises.
down there. That opera mob's about to break into the Mad Song from Lucia.
Oh, I don't want to keep them waiting any longer. They're important people.
Very good, sir. Right here,
I
sir.
can't go down like this. Oh,
Right here, sir.
I wish you'd go along with me. Cobb, they're all strangers to me.
Oh, what about it, Mr. Deeds?
Huh? Oh, you'll excuse me, won't you? I'll be right back. Gee, I'm busy. Do the opera people always come here for their meetings?
Uh-huh.
That's funny. Why's that?
Why do mice go where there's cheese?
From what I'm led to believe, the young man's quite childish. I don't think we'll have any difficulty in getting him to put up the entire amount. After all, it's only a matter of $180,000.
Excellent idea.
You know, gentlemen, we're...
Look at this set, this mansion, which was a set. It was built at Columbia, at the Columbia Ranch, the Deeds house. And today maybe you would shoot a scene in a real home somewhere. You'd find a home somewhere. but
I think it only fitting
at that time,
Mr. Longfellow Deeds.
the equipment was much heavier,
I therefore nominate
much less portable.
all those in
It
favor.
was far easier to actually build this whole house out on a piece of property at the Columbia Ranch, was out in Burbank. And there was some landscaping and everything. It was a little street with some houses on it. And when they needed a house for another picture, they'd just build a house. Then it would just stay there the whole time. This house is probably still there. But, and it was built specifically for this film, but then it would be used by many, many, many other films with small changes and this little differences.
What does the chairman do?
Why, the chairman presides at the meeting.
Well, that's what I thought. But if you don't mind, I'm rather interested in the treasurer's report. I'd like to hear it.
The treasurer reports a deficit of $180,000 for the current year.
A deficit? You mean we lost that much?
You see, Mr. Deeds, the opera is not conducted for profit.
It isn't. What is it conducted for?
Why, it's an artistic institution.
We own an opera house, don't we?
We do.
And we give shows?
We provide opera.
But you charge. I mean, you sell tickets.
Of course.
And it doesn't pay?
Well, that's impossible. The opera has never paid.
Well, then we must give the wrong kind of shows.
The wrong kind? Well, there isn't any wrong kind or right kind. Opera is opera.
I guess it is, but I personally wouldn't care to be the head of a business that kept losing money. That wouldn't be common sense. Incidentally, where is the $180,000 coming from?
Well, we were rather expecting it to come from you.
Me?
Naturally.
Excuse me, gentlemen, there's nothing natural about that. Hey, fire engine! Gee, that was a pip. We're gonna have one like that in Mandrake Falls pretty soon, with a siren, too. Where were we?
You see, Mr. Deeds, the opera is not conducted like any ordinary business.
Why not?
Because it just isn't a business, that's all.
Well, maybe it isn't to you, but it certainly is a business to me if I have to make up a loss of $180,000. If it's losing that much money, there must be something wrong. Maybe you charge too much. Maybe you're selling bad merchandise. Maybe a lot of things. I don't know. You see, I expect to do a lot of good with that money, and I can't afford to put it into anything that I don't look into. That's my decision for the time being, gentlemen. Goodbye, and thank you for making me chairman.
Gentlemen, you'll find the smelling salts in the medicine chest.
Sorry to keep you waiting so long. Those opera people are funny. They wanted me to put up $180,000.
What about it, Mr. Deeds?
Why, I turned them down, naturally.
No, I mean about my client.
Oh, well, we'll have to do something about the common wife.
Tails tonight, sir?
Tails? Why, that's a monkey suit. Do you want people to laugh at me? I've never worn one of those things in my life.
Yes. Goodbye, and thank you, sir.
Why? Wants me to wear a monkey suit.
Of course, we don't want to appear greedy, Mr. Deeds.
Huh?
I say we don't want to appear greedy.
Oh, that. What do you think you're doing?
Why, I'm assisting you, sir.
Get up from there. I don't want anybody holding the ends of my pants. Get up from there.
Yes.
Imagine that. Holding the ends of my pants.
Mrs. Semple is entitled by law to 1/3 of the estate.
And don't ever get on your knees again, understand?
No, sir.
Excuse me, what'd you say?
Mrs. Semple is entitled to 1/3 of the estate.
1/3, that's about $7 million, isn't it?
Well, we didn't expect that much. I'm sure I can get it to settle quietly for $1 million.
If there's any talk of settlement, Howler, take it up with me at the office.
I'll do no such thing.
Wonderful opportunity for my dad to poke fun at a lot of what could be considered, I guess, the fashionable mores of the day.
I don't like your face. Besides,
The,
there's something
the idea of this simple guy
for $1 million
coming into
when they can get
contact with all of these
I'm surprised that Mr. Cedar,
various con men
smart man,
and
couldn't see
representatives of
Oh, wait a minute,
all the
buddy.
different
One nice
people
thing
out to
about
get his
being
money
rich, you ring a bell and
was
ring back.
a great chance for my father's
I'm gonna ask you
style
next
and
door,
kind
many
of
people don't know where it
of
is.
humor.
No use in getting
And
tough.
that's another thing that drew him very much to this picture.
Will you show Mr. Haller to the front door?
Yes, sir.
And listen, there isn't any wife, there aren't any letters, and I think you're a crook, so you better watch your step.
I can't hold out any longer. Lamb bites wolf. Beautiful.
It's only common sense.
I can't hold out any longer either, Mr. Deeds. Being an attorney for you will be a very simple affair.
You're not my attorney yet, Mr. Cedar, not till I find out what's on your mind. Suppose you get the book straightened out quick so I can have a look at it.
Yes, of course, if you wish. But you must be prepared. This sort of thing will be daily routine. If it becomes annoying, you let me know. Goodbye, Mr. Deeds. Goodbye, sir.
Even his hands are oily.
Well, how about tonight? What would you like in the way of entertainment?
Entertainment?
Your uncle had a weakness for dark ones, tall and stately. How would you like yours? Dark or fair, tall or short, fat or thin, tough or tender?
What are you talking about?
Women. Ever heard of them?
Oh.
Name your poison and I'll supply it.
Well, some other time, Cobb. Some other time.
Okay, you're the boss. When your blood begins to boil, yell out. I'll be seeing you.
He talks about women as if they were cattle.
Every man to his taste, sir.
Tell me, Walter, are all these stories I hear about my uncle true?
Well, sir, he sometimes had as many as 20 in the house at the same time, sir.
20? What'd they do with them?
That is something I was never able to find out, sir.
Another little idiosyncrasy.
Hey, you going out?
Well, yes. Isn't that all right?
No. You'll never want to go out without telling us.
Who are you?
We're your bodyguards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Cobb said stick to your tail no matter what.
Well, that's very nice of Mr. Cobb, but I don't want anybody sticking to my tail no matter what.
Sorry, mister. Orders is orders.
That's all.
Yes, sir. We gotta get you up in the morning. We gotta put you to bed at night. Only it's all right. No matter what we see, we don't see nothing, see?
Well, that's going to be fun.
Some people like it.
The female role was more difficult.
Sure.
And he had
Put that away, slug.
had some fortune with Barbara Stanwyck, but he did not think that she was right for the project, and she was doing some other work, and he was looking about for someone, and he happened to see in some dailies being run at the studio this woman. And the minute he saw her, he thought, she's interesting. She has a great voice. She has sort of an interesting look. And he asked about her, and everybody said, oh, yes, that's Jean Arthur. And, but she's not got a very big name, and she's been in a few pictures. And he began to badger Harry Cohen about using her. And eventually, he talked Cohen into it. And this was really the first of the pictures that made Jean Arthur a star. Pretty nice introduction for a character, I'd say. Miss Arthur, again, Joe Walker was the cameraman on this picture.
Can I help you?
And
No, thank you. I'll be all right.
was very well known for being able to photograph women,
No, really.
make them very attractive.
What happened?
Well,
One of the things that
I talk too much. I've been looking for
they
a
dealt
job
with
all day.
was that
I'm not sure. I'll start tomorrow.
Miss Arthur was,
It was an awfully kind. Thank you.
rightly or wrongly, whatever, she felt that there was one side of her face which was much more attractive than another. And so she always tried to insist that the scenes be shot with her attractive side towards the camera. And when they would build sets or block the scenes, they would try to be sure that where she would be seen from. I don't know that that's really true. She's a very attractive lady, probably from both sides, but she felt it was. And so she kind of insisted that that be the way she be photographed.
Feel better now?
It tastes so good. Mr. Deeds, I don't know how I can ever thank you.
Tell me more about yourself.
Well, I guess I've told you almost everything there is to tell. My folks live in a small town near Hartford. I'm down here alone trying to make a living. Oh, I'm really just a nobody.
You can see from these close-ups of Herb and of Gary, they're not matching. And a lot of directors would match the size of the close-up from one to the other, but this is, as you can see, an over-the-shoulder shot and close-up of her. My father was not very interested in rules that other people had made up for the way films should be shot. He always felt that he was kind of inventing all of this himself anyway, his own styles and his own kinds of films, and his own ways of doing things, his own ways of shooting, his own ways of working with sound, his own ways of working with the camera. That's why I was so happy with Joe Walker, who was such an inventive cameraman. Joe invented the zoom lens, for instance, and he would always try. He would try different things, and he was very experimental. My father really enjoyed working with those kinds of technical people. He was basically, he would always say there are really no rules in filmmaking. Probably the only rule that he ever would say there was, he would say, the only rule is that you cannot bore people. That's the only dictate that you should make. Film cannot be boring. I think most people would agree that his films are lively and move and are not boring. One of the things that he decided early on was the way films were edited in those years. They were edited on a piece of equipment called a moviola. The moviola ran the film through, and you looked at it on a small screen. Screen maybe 6 inches across. And that's how you would make your cuts. And then, eventually, of course, you'd play it on a screen in a theater, and he always said invariably it looked slower to him on the screen for whatever reasons, either the magnification of it and that sort of thing. He felt it made a difference. There was a difference in the rhythm. There seemed to be a difference in the speed of which the actor spoke. And so, again, he decided that on his own way of doing things, he asked the actors to speak more quickly than they normally would. Some of them, frankly, found that a little difficult, and they wondered why we have to do that. We've been doing this for a long time. But anyway, he tried to increase the pace of their delivery throughout his films. At the same time, he increased the pace of his editing. He began to watch how his edits on the moviola would seem to be slowed down on the big screen. And he began to try to hurry them up, so they even looked unnatural, but at the same time, they seemed better when they were on the screen. That's one of the things I think a lot of comments about my father's work has been that they talk about the pace of it and how it seemed to be very fast-paced all the time. This was truly a thoughtful process on his part, and because he felt that because with a large screen and because you were close to these magnified images, that the pace had to be speeded up, even unnaturally, to seem normal, or to seem at least what was normal to what he wanted. on the screen. And you'll notice that there's a lot of that in this film. It's a lot of fast-paced, both dialogue and cutting.
Only nobody'd laugh at you and make you feel ridiculous, because that wouldn't be good manners. I guess maybe it is comical to write poems for postcards, but a lot of people think they're good. Anyway, it's the best I can do. So if you excuse me, we'll be leaving. I guess I found out that all famous people aren't big people.
It's burning up.
There's just one thing more. If it weren't for Miss Dawson being here with me, I'd probably bump your heads together.
Oh, I don't mind.
Well, then I guess maybe I will.
Wait a minute! Eureka!
Stop it. Go away. Step aside. Say, fella, you neglected me, and I feel very put out. Look, sock it right there, will you? Lay one right in the butt. Sock it hard.
That's all right. I've got it off my chest.
Oh, listen. The difference between them and me is that I know when I've been a skunk. You take me to the nearest newsstand, and I'll eat a pack of your postcards raw. Yeah. Oh, what a magnificent deflation of smugness. Pal, you've added 10 years to my life. A poet with a straight left and a right hook. Delicious. You're my guest from now on, forever and a day, even unto eternity.
Well, thanks, but Miss Dawson and I are going out to see the sights.
Fine, swell. You've just shown me a sight lovely to behold, and I'd like to reciprocate. Listen, you hop aboard my magic carpet, thanks, and I'll show you sights that you've never seen before.
Well, I'd kind of like to see Grant's tomb and the Statue of Liberty.
Well, you'll not only see those, but before the evening's half through, you'll be leaning against the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You'll mount Mount Everest. I'll show you the pyramids and all the little pyramides leaping from sphinx to sphinx. Pal, look, how would you like to go on a real old-fashioned binge?
Binge?
Yeah, I mean the real McCoy. Listen, you play saloon with me, and I'll introduce you to every wit, every nitwit, and every half-wit in New York. We'll go on a twister that'll make Omar, the South philosopher of Persia, look like an anemic on a goat's milk diet.
Well, I guess that ought to be fun, huh?
Fun? Say, listen, I'll
Again, a wonderful little piece of work by an actor who doesn't appear again much, but maybe in some of his other films, but just a piece of business that really isn't critical to the plot or critical to the picture, but adds a number of elements that work later on in the picture and work with the character of Gary Cooper. And as you could see, that was that moment of stardom for that actor, and a very funny scene, and that scene has been repeated in many compilations of scenes that people have done work on my dad's work and looked at my dad's work. That's one scene that's quite often referred to.
Is he really that big a sap?
He's the original. There are no carbon copies of that one.
Cinderella Man. Babe, you've stuck a tag on that hick that'll stick to him the rest of his life. Can you imagine Cobb's face when he reads this?
If we could sell tickets, we'd make a fortune.
How'd you get the picture?
Had the boys follow us?
Marvelous. At 2 o'clock this morning, Mr. Deeds tied up traffic while he fed a bag full of donuts to a horse.
Then a very strong role for a female lead. Deception, not what she seems, and yet the arc of her character comes around, and the female leads in my father's films were very much in demand because they knew the actresses didn't get a lot of good parts, much as today.
Good. Stay there. Don't show your face down here. I'll tell everybody you're on your vacation. They'll never know where the stories are coming from. Stick close to him, babe. You can get an exclusive story out of him every day for a month. We'll have the other papers crazy. Babe, I could kiss you.
Oh, no. Our deal was for a month's vacation.
Sure.
With pay.
You'll get it, babe. You'll get it.
Mr. Deeds? Mr. Deeds, sir. You really must get up. It's late.
You're Walter, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to make sure.
If you permit me to say so, sir, you were out on quite a bender last night, sir.
Bender? You're wrong, Walter. We started out to a binge, but we never got to it.
Yes, sir.
Oh. What's that?
A prairie oyster, sir.
Prairie oyster.
One of the things that he
Makes the head feel
was interested in doing in his picture, in this next picture, was, in many ways, he felt it happened one night had been a tremendously happy and lucky accident. It all kind of came together. Now, it's true that some of his friends, especially a writer at the time named Miles Connolly, was telling him always, now look, it's not just a lucky accident, it's you making the picture, it's coming from within inside you. You just don't maybe know about it, and maybe you're not doing it consciously, but that's where it's coming from. So be free to tell your own stories about your Janes and Jones, but tell them with your own ideas from inside you. And he began to think about that and think about the idea of telling a story that he really enjoyed, that he thought would have a lot of humor in it, had a wonderful main character, and that he knew that because of his success on It Happened One Night, he could get a pretty good contract from Harry Cohen.
Shouting, back to nature. Clothes are a blight on civilization. Back to nature.
Listen, Walter. If a man named Morrow calls up, tell him I'm not in. He may be a great author, but I think he's crazy. The man's crazy, Walter.
Yes, sir. Oh, by the way, did you...
The knee.
But how will I put on the slipper, sir? Yes, sir. I beg pardon, sir, but did you ever find what you were looking for, sir?
Looking for?
You kept searching me last night, sir, going through all my pockets. You said you were looking for a rhyme for Budington.
Up to that point in the scene, there hasn't been a cut. The whole scene was shot
Oh, I beg pardon. A telegram came to you, sir.
from one camera angle without a cut.
I'll get you
Now
some
we're back to that
black
same
coffee,
shot.
sir.
Did you see all this stuff in the paper?
Arthur wants to quit.
Arthur? Who's Arthur?
He's the shipping clerk at the Teleworks. Wants a $2 raise or he'll quit.
What do I care about Arthur? Did you see this stuff in the paper? How did it get in there? What did you do last night? Who were you talking to? And what did you do to those bodyguards? They quit this morning, said you locked them up.
Oh, they insisted on following me.
What do you think bodyguards are for?
What do they mean by this, Cinderella Man?
Are those stories true?
Cinderella Man, what do they mean by that?
They'd call you anything if you gave them half a chance. They got you down as a sack.
I think I'll go down and punch this editor in the nose.
No, you don't. Get this clear. Sucking people in the nose is no solution for anything.
Sometimes it's the only solution.
Not editors. Take my word for it. Not editors.
If they're going to poke fun at me, I'm going to...
Listen, Longfellow. You got brains, kid. You'll get along swell if you'll only curb your homicidal instincts and keep your trap shut. Don't talk to anybody. These news hounds are out gunning for you.
Well, what about this Cinderella Man?
That's my job. I'll take care of that. I'll keep that stuff out of the papers if you'll help me. But I can't do anything if you go around talking to people. Will you promise me to be careful from now on? Huh?
Yes, I guess I'll have to.
Thank you. If you feel the building rock, it'll be me blasting into this editor.
Cobb's right. I mustn't talk to anybody.
Miss Dawson on the phone, sir.
Who, Miss Dawson?
Yes, sir.
Fine, I'll talk to her. Give me the phone quick. She's the only one I'm going to talk to from now on. Awfully nice of you to show me around like this.
I enjoy it.
The aquarium was swell. If I lived in New York, I'd go there every day. I bet you do.
These are what we call process shots. They were done instead of taking the camera out and the actors out at night, putting them on the double-decker bus or whatever, or in the cars. The set was built on the stage. A projection screen was set up behind them, and then the projection was made. A camera was taken out and filmed the background, and then was brought in and projected behind them while you were shooting the scene.
Gee, you look pretty tonight.
What'd they say?
It was commonly done in interiors of cars and
Said I wanted to run it like a grocery store.
in areas, in places like this. A little bit of wind, a little bit of
Always wear your hair like
lights
that?
going by, it makes a pretty good illusion.
I'd like to get my hooks into that guy.
Don't worry, someone's probably taking him for plenty.
If they were men, I'd knock their heads together. Have you seen the papers?
Uh-huh.
That's what I like about you. You think about a man's feelings. I'd like to go down to that newspaper and punch the fellow in the nose that's writing that stuff. Cinderella Man. I guess pretty soon everybody will be calling me Cinderella Man.
Would you like to walk the rest of the way? It's so nice out.
Yes.
Yeah, let's.
Hey, wise guys. He's getting off.
Hey, come on, pull up the curb. Up the curb.
Oh, come on. Don't you want to see it?
Well, feast your eyes, birds too.
Is that it? Hey, Beetle Puss. The tune.
Well, there you are, Grant's tomb. Hope you're not disappointed.
It's wonderful.
To most people, it's an awful letdown.
Huh?
I say to most people, it's a washout.
Well, that depends on what they see.
Now, what do you see?
Me? Oh, I see.
That scene was all done
Small,
on
high
process
farm
stage
boys
also
becoming a
with
great
background, so they didn't have to go to New York to do Grant's tomb.
I see General Lee.
That was a little bit of a getting to know you kind of scene where
And I can see the beginning
the
of
audiences
new
get to
nation,
know
like Abraham Lincoln said.
their main characters a little bit, get
And
to
I
like
can
them
see
a
the
little bit
high
better,
allegory being inaugurated.
and therefore then they begin to care about what
In fact,
happens
that
to
can
them.
only happen in a country like America. Excuse me.
Sorry, Mr. Halper. Mr. Cedar won't answer his phone. Sorry.
Say, what's going on in the boss's office?
Search me. The 3 C's and little B have been in there for over an hour.
I don't want to be critical, John, but here it is.
Yes, I know. A week's gone by, and we haven't got the power of attorney yet.
Yes, but you said...
I don't care what I said. I can't strangle him, can I?
It's ridiculous for us to have to worry about a boy like that. Look at these articles about him. Cinderella Man. Why, he's carrying on like an idiot.
Exactly what I was saying to my wife.
Who cares what you were saying to your wife?
Yeah?
Mr. and Mrs. Semple still waiting.
Well, I can't help it. Let him wait.
Those people have been in to see me every day this week.
Who are they?
They're relatives of old man Semple.
They keep insisting they should have some nuisance value.
Nuisance value.
They say if it hadn't been for Deeds, they'd have gotten all the money.
Nuisance value. Maybe they have. Maybe they have. Maybe they have. Mr. and Mrs. Semple, please. How do you do?
We've been trying to
I'm so
see.
sorry to have kept you waiting. How are you, sir? I don't know what my secretary could have been thinking of to keep you waiting as long. Would you bring the chairs, quickly? Will you have a cigar, Mr. Semple?
Thanks.
There's Times Square.
You can almost spit on it, can't you?
Why don't you try? It's breezy up here. You're worried about those articles they're writing about you, aren't you?
No, I'm not worrying anymore. I suppose they'll go on writing them till they get tired. You don't believe all that stuff, do you?
Oh, they just do it to sell the newspapers, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. What
Oh, my
puzzles
dad
me
always
is
recognized that
why people seem to get so much
that
pleasure out of
there were
out of
both
hurting
women and men going to
Why don't they try
these
liking
movies
each
and
other
paying their
some
money,
more?
and so he believed that it was roles for women were not that common. There were, of course, starring roles for women where a Bette Davis film or something where she had the starring role, but these kinds of roles where you had two co-stars and they had pretty much equal roles and equal arcs of story and character were not as common. And that's one of the reasons I think you remember his female roles as being that strong, and you think back and you think about them. Of course, the heroes, the male role is always there, and it's usually a pretty well-known actor, and but the women were very good. And then out of three, I mean, it was Claudette and Jean Arthur and Barbara Stanwyck, and they all were very strong. They portrayed strong characters in these pictures.
They all seem to have the St. Vitus dance.
There was always an arc, and in some way a similar kind of arc where there's deception, and of course then it gets found out, and then that brings the hero down, and then eventually they get together again. But they're always strong. They have strong motives. They have great scenes. In many scenes, she has more to do than he does.
I'm from a small
And
town.
that was very purposeful.
Probably as small as Mandrake Falls.
Gosh, what do you know about that?
Oh, it's a beautiful little town, too. Row of poplar trees right along Main Street. Always smells as if it just had a bath. I've often thought about going back.
You have?
Oh, yes. I used to have a lot of fun there when I was a little girl. I used to love to go fishing with my father. You know, that's funny. He was a lot like you, my father was. He talked like you, too. Sometimes he let me hold the line while he smoked, and we'd just sit there for hours. And after a while, for no reason, I'd go over and kiss him and sit in his lap. He never said very much, but once I remember him saying, "No matter what happens, honey, don't complain."
He sounds like a person well worth knowing.
He played in the down band, too.
He did? I play the tuba.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, well, what did he play?
The drums. He taught me to play some.
He did?
Mm-hmm. I can do Swanee River. Would you like to hear me?
Sure.
See now. Lay down upon the Swanee River, far, far away. There's where my heart is going, mother. There's where the old folks stay. Oh, I suppose you could do better.
Sure. I can sing humoresque.
Humoresque. I bet you don't even know how it goes.
Sure, look. You sing it over again, and I'll do humoresque with it.
You better be good.
I wonder if they want to make it a quartet.
Ready?
Yeah.
Lay down upon the Swanee River, far, far away.
Very perfect example of the kind of getting to know you scene where, as an audience, get to know the two of them, most especially the character, Gary Cooper, and we began to like him very much, and we began to see that there's something happening between the two of them.
Fire engine, I want to see how they do it. Wait for me, will you?
Looks like the evening is not going to be wasted.
Hello. What do you want? Captain Dean, Fire Volunteers, Mandrake Falls. Hi, Cap. Boys, meet the captain. Hi, Captain.
Jean Arthur was, in a lot of ways, difficult to work with, but my father was just liked working with her because he knew he'd get a great performance. Well, on the set, she was always kind of never ready and not quite ready, and she was really difficult to get out of the dressing room in front of the camera. But once you got her there, she was so terrific. And he always knew that sometimes it was a big effort to do that sometimes, and she was pretty neurotic about it. But when the lights came on and the camera rolled, she was wonderful. And he saw that immediately, and that he really was delighted with her, and she's very, very fine in this picture. And of course, he used her in other pictures too after that.
Who? Oh, yes. Yes, just a moment.
It's him. Whatchamacallem? The Cinderella Man. The Cinderella Man. Hello.
Couldn't sleep. Kind of wanted to talk to you. Do you mind?
No, not at all. I couldn't sleep either.
I wanted to thank you again for going out with me. Huh? Well, I don't know what I'd do without you. You made up for all the fakes I've met.
Well, very nice. Thank you.
You know what I've been doing since I got home? Been working on a poem. It's about you. Sometimes it's kind of hard for me to say things, so I write them.
I'd like to read it sometime.
Maybe I'll have it finished next time I see you. Will I see you soon? Gosh, that's swell, Mary. Good night.
Good night. Mabel, that guy's either the dumbest, stupidest, most imbecilic idiot in the world, or else he's the grandest thing alive. I can't make him out.
Uh-huh.
I'm crucifying him.
People have been crucified before.
Why? Why do we have to do it?
You started out to be a successful newspaper woman, didn't you?
Now, then what?
Search me. Ask the gypsies.
Here's a guy that's wholesome and fresh. To us, he looks like a freak. Do you know what he told me tonight? He said when he gets married, he wants to carry his bride over the threshold in his arms.
The guy's balmy.
Is he? Yeah, I thought so, too. I tried to laugh, but I couldn't. It stuck in my throat.
Ah, cut it out, will you? You'll get me thinking about Charlie again.
He's got goodness, Mabel. Do you know what that is?
Huh?
No, of course you don't. We've forgotten. We're too busy being smart, Alex. Too busy in a crazy competition for nothing.
I beg pardon, sir. I beg pardon, sir.
Huh?
Madame Pomponi is on the telephone, sir.
Who?
Madame Pomponi. She says that everything is all set for the reception.
What do you mean by coming in here when I'm playing?
But she's on the telephone, sir.
Get out. The evil finger's on you.
The finger, sir.
Get out!
Yes, sir.
You hear that?
What's it? Why, that's an echo, sir.
You try it.
Me, sir?
Yeah. Louder. You try it.
Me, sir?
Louder. You try it. All together. Again.
My father beginning his career as a gag writer and as an entertainer in gag films with Max Sennett and our gang. He never lost that ability and quality to insert humor into his pieces, even though humor like that really didn't create any more of the storytelling. All it did was help us as an audience like the character and become more familiar with him and actually like him better. And also, it kept a little humor going on the piece, and when people are laughing, they're paying attention and they're enjoying the picture. My father always inserted as much laughter as he could in his films, because he knew that they was a very important part of his storytelling. But this film really was on the way towards him maturing as a real film artist, because again, it was the first film that he wanted to combine his storytelling and comedy with some of his thoughts and ideas that were coming out of inside him about individualism and integrity and the role of the individual in our society. These were important issues to him. And his other films, he'd primarily been entertainment films. This is the first one where he began to combine some of his ideas with his entertainment abilities. And in many ways, Mr. Deeds is a very funny picture, can be played as just simply as a comedy. But at the same time, it's a picture with some real ideas at its heart. And he began to be sure enough of his own abilities as a filmmaker to be able to interject ideas into his films.
Boy, was he burning.
Just a minute. No, you don't.
Oh, just one little drink, and then we're ready to shoot.
We're not going out tonight.
Thought you had a date with him.
It's off. He's having a party at his house.
Say, what's the matter with her now?
You wouldn't know if I drew you a diagram. Now run along and peddle your little tintypes.
Say, what is this? Throwing us out of here is getting to be a regular habit.
Is Mary Dawson here? I'm Longfellow Deeds.
Oh, yes, of course. Longfellow Deeds. Come in. Step in, please.
You're Mabel, her sister, aren't you?
Huh? Oh, yes. Yes, of course, her sister. Yes, I've been her sister a long time.
Is she home?
Yeah. What?
Is Mary home?
Oh, Mary. Oh, yes, of course. Well, I don't know whether she's home or not. I'll see. But there she is. Of course she's home.
Hello.
Stupid of me.
Hello, Mary. Yeah, I waited in the park for you over an hour. I thought maybe you'd forgotten.
I didn't think you could come with a party and everything.
Oh, I wouldn't let them stop me from seeing you, so I threw them out.
You threw them out?
You mean by the neck or something?
Sure, they got on my nerves, so I threw them out. I guess that'll be in the papers tomorrow. It'll give them something else to laugh at. I don't mind, though. I had a lot of fun doing it.
Would you like to go for a walk?
Yeah, if it isn't too late.
I'll get my hat.
It's a nice day, or nice night, wasn't it, isn't it?
Yes, lovely. We've had a lot of nice weather lately.
Yeah, it'd be a nice night to go for a walk, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, I think it'd be a swell night to go for a walk. A nice long one.
Ready?
Gosh. She looks better every time I see her.
Thank you.
Good night. Don't worry, I won't keep her out late.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Oh, my foot to sleep.
No, you
Wait
don't.
up, wait a minute.
No, you don't. Just a
We
minute.
come up to make the
This is
picture.
party.
No, listen, she took this.
No more photographs.
Glad you wanted to take a walk, Mary, because I wanted to talk to you.
Let's just walk, hmm?
All right. Mary, I'm going home.
Are you? When?
Oh, a day or so, I think.
I don't blame you.
Man ought to know where he fits in. I just don't fit in around here. I once had an idea I could do something with the money. But it kept me so busy I haven't had time to figure it out. I guess I'll wait till I get back home. Do you mind if I talk to you, Mary? You don't have to pay any attention to me.
No, I don't mind.
All my life, I've wanted somebody to talk to. Back in Mandrake Falls, I used to always talk to a girl.
A girl?
Well, an imaginary one. I used to hike a lot through the woods, and I'd always take this girl with me so I could talk to her. I'd show her my pet trees and things. Sounds kind of silly, but we had a lot of fun doing it. She was beautiful. I haven't married because I've been kind of weighty. You know, my mother and father were a great couple. And I thought I might have the same kind of luck. I've always hoped that someday that imaginary girl would turn out to be real. Well, here we are again.
Yes, here we are again. Good night.
Good night. Mary, Excuse me.
Goodbye, darling. Don't let anybody hurt you again, ever. They can't anyway. You're much too real. You go back to Mandrake Falls. It's where you belong. Goodbye.
Mary. You know the poem I told you about? It's finished. Would you like to read it? It's to you.
Yes, of course.
You don't have to say anything, Mary. You can tell me tomorrow what you think.
I tramp the earth with hopeless beat, searching in vain for a glimpse of you. Then heaven thrust you at my very feet, a lovely angel, too lovely to woo.
A number of people
My dream
used to tell my dad that they really thought this picture was
I'm handcuffed.
really funnier than It Happened One Night, many of the other pictures that he had done up to that point. But he felt really that this picture had something to say, but at the same time, just that the situations and the scenes created great opportunities for humor.
Tomorrow till I hear from you.
Again, back to his roots as a gag writer comedian.
Stop it, babe, stop it. What do you mean you're quitting? You might as well tell me I'm quitting. It's bothering you.
Last night he proposed to me.
Proposed to you? You mean he asked you to marry him?
Yes.
Why, babe, that's terrific. Cinderella man woos mystery girl. Who is the
Print
mysterious
one line of that and I'll blow your place up.
Sorry, babe, sorry. I just got carried away. That's too bad. That would have made a swell story. So he proposed to you, huh? What a twist. You set out to nail him and he...
Yeah. Funny twist, isn't it?
Hey. You haven't gone and fallen for that mug, have you? Well, I'll be. Oh, that's tough, babe. What are you going to do?
I'm going to tell him the truth.
Tell him you babe Bennett? Tell him you've been making a stooge out of him?
I'm having lunch with him today. He expects an answer. It's going to be pretty.
You're crazy. You can't do that.
He'll probably kick me right down the stairs. I only hope he does.
I'll put you on another job. You need never see him again, huh?
That's the rub.
Oh, it's as bad as that, huh?
Telling him's a long shot. I'm going to take it. Well, it was fun while it lasted, Mac. I'll clean out my desk.
How's it going? Okay?
Yes, quite all right, thank you, sir.
Gold, huh?
Yes, sir.
14 karat.
Yes, sir.
That the best you got?
Oh, yes, sir.
Those flowers are too high.
Yes, sir.
Won't be able to see her. Get a smaller bowl, will you?
Yeah, a smaller bowl of flowers, yes.
Yes, sir. Smaller bowl of flowers. Get that stuff I was telling you about?
Stuff, sir?
Yeah, that goo. That stuff that tastes like soap.
Oh, yes, sir. Here it is, sir. The pâté de foie gras, sir.
Yeah. That's fine. Have a lot of it because she likes it.
Yes.
Now you got the idea. It's fine. Sit over there, will you?
Me, sir?
Yeah. You're too tall. Slink lower, will you?
Yes.
More. Now forward.
How is this, sir?
Perfect. Perfect.
I wish you luck, sir.
Thank you. I don't touch a thing. Leave everything as it is.
Oh, yes.
Waller! 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 Where are you? Yes, what is, sir? Anything happened?
Anything happened, I got to get dressed. I can't meet her like this.
But she isn't due for an hour, sir.
An hour? What's an hour? You know how time flies, Walter. My tie, will
Yes,
you?
sir. Very good, sir. Yes, sir.
Way down upon the Swanee River.
Just as I suspected, wise guy. I don't mind you making a sap out of yourself, but you made one out of me, too.
Will you tell the gentleman I'm not
Here it comes.
Mary Dawson. Mary Dawson, my eye. That dame took you for a sleigh ride that New York will laugh about for years. She's the slickest, two-timing, double-crossing...
What are you talking about?
All right, go ahead, sock away, and then try to laugh this off. She's the star reporter on the Mail. Every time you opened your kisser, you gave her another story. She's the dame who slapped that moniker on you, Cinderella Man. You've been making love to a double dose of cyanide.
Shut up.
Oh, listen, babe, I can't let you quit now. You're not going through this thing, are you?
This is for you, Mac. Names of all the head waiters in town. You can always buy a bit of choice candy from them at reasonable prices.
I've seen them get in a rut like you before, but they always come back. Hello? Yes? Just a minute. It's for you. In a couple of weeks, you'll get the itch so bad you'll be working for nothing.
Hello?
Babe Bennett? Just a minute.
Hello, Mary.
Oh, hello, darling.
Is it you who's been writing those articles about me?
Why, I was just leaving. I'll be up there in a minute. Look, yes, I did, but I was just coming up to explain. Oh, listen, darling, wait a minute, please. Listen.
I beg pardon, sir. Shall I serve the wine with the squab, sir? I beg pardon, sir.
If I knew you were going to take it so hard, I would have kept my mouth shut. I'm sorry.
Pack my things, Walter. I'm going home. Yes, sir.
You shouldn't be running away like this. What's going to happen to the estate?
They can have the estate.
I want to see Mr. Dawson. That seems to me that nobody's going to keep me out. Let me go. Let me go. Let me go. I want to see that guy. I want to see that guy. Let me go. I want to see that guy. Let me go.
What's going
I want
on
to see
here?
him.
What is he?
There he is. I just want to get a look at him. There you are. I just wanted to see what kind of a man you were. I just wanted to see what a man looked like that could spend thousands of dollars on a party while people around him were hungry. The Cinderella Man, huh? Did you ever stop to think how many families could have been fed on the money you pay out to get on the front pages?
Take it
Let
easy.
me alone! Let him alone. You know what's good for you. You let me get this off my chest. How did you feel feeding donuts to a horse? Got a kick out of it, huh? Got a big laugh. Did you ever think of feeding donuts to human beings? No.
Shall I call the police, sir?
No. What do you want?
Yeah, that's all that's worrying you. What do I want? A chance to feed a wife and kids. I'm a farmer. A job, that's what I want.
Farmer, huh? You're a moocher, that's what you are. I wouldn't believe you or anybody else on a stack of Bibles. You're a moocher like all the rest of them around here, so get out of here.
Sure, everybody's a moocher to you. A mongrel dog eating out of a garbage pail is a moocher to you.
This won't do anything.
Stay where you are, young fellow! Get over there! You're about to get some more publicity, Mr. Deeds. You're about to get on the front page again. See how you're going to like it this time. See what good your money's going to do when you're 6 feet underground. You never thought of that, did you? No. All you ever thought of was pinching pennies. You money-grabbing hick. You never gave a thought to all of those starving people standing in the bread lines, not knowing where their next meal was coming from. Not able to feed their wife and kids. Not able to... I'm glad I didn't hurt nobody. Excuse me. Crazy.
This is one of the scenes
You
that
get all kinds of crazy
most looked
ideas.
at about my father and about his ability to direct. Gary Cooper is marvelous in this scene.
Losing your farm after 20 years' work. Seeing your kids go hungry. Game little wife saying everything's gonna be all right. Standing there in the bread lines. Killed me to take a hand out. I ain't used to it. Go ahead and do what you want with me, mister. I guess I'm at the end of my rope.
Very hard kind of scene to do with Cooper going from the joy of having his luncheon, his world destroyed, finding out about Jean Arthur, his disbelief of this person, and then you could see on his face he's beginning to think about this. It's really the heart of the picture. It's about money and the individual and the world around at the time of the Depression. The decision is done, and you're told in a newspaper. You never see Mr. Cooper say it, talk about it, whatever. Bang. And we have another one of Vorkovich's montages. Wonderful irony of all of these homeless and very poor people in this fantastic house.
Are you married?
Yes, sir.
Any children?
No, no children.
All right, Mr. Dodsworth, I think you'll qualify. Take this to that desk over there for the instructions.
Thank you very much.
Next, please. How many does that make?
You've okayed 819.
Is that all?
That's all.
It's going awfully slow. We need 1,100 more. Hello? Yes. Yeah. The water development seems okay. I don't like the road layout yet. Come up tonight about 10 and bring the maps. Right.
Here's the order for the plows. We got a good price on them.
That's fine, thanks. I'll look them over later.
Mr. Deeds, my wife wanted me to tell you she prays for you every night.
Well, thanks. How do you do? What is your name?
George Rankin, sir. No, we're not buying any bulls. What's that? Listen, fella, bulls what I've been selling all my life.
We've very little time. He's ordered me to turn everything over to him immediately. We have to work fast before he disposes of every penny.
See, I told you something could be done. I knew it all the time. Sign it, dear.
We may get into trouble.
Oh, don't be so squeamish.
There's millions involved. After all, you have your legal rights. You're his only living relative.
What's it say?
That's your agreement with Mr. Cedar in case we win.
You see, my end is going to be rather expensive. I have a lot of important people to take care of. I have the legal machinery all set and ready to go. I've been working on nothing else for the last week. You say the word, and we'll stop this yokel dead in his tracks.
Sign it.
Oh, all right.
Charlie, we're off. Papers all set? All set. Okay, then go to it. And Charlie, find out who wrote those newspaper articles and subpoena him right away. Okay.
So what is your name?
Christian Svensson.
Farmer?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is your farm?
South Dakota North.
South Dakota North?
South Dakota, but on the top.
Oh.
What about your knocking off for lunch?
Not hungry. Want to get through this work in a hurry, and then I want to go home.
Come on, what are you trying to do, kid? Keel over? You haven't been out of this house in 2 weeks.
Well, maybe I'll have a sandwich. Do you mind waiting a few minutes?
Oh, sure, sure. If you like to have a sandwich, I can give you one, please.
Thanks. Thank you. Never mind, Cobb. Good. Cobb. Get lunches for the rest of them.
What? There must be 2,000 of them out there.
Well, that doesn't make them any less hungry.
Okay, Santa Claus. 2,000 lunches.
Say something. Go ahead. Tell him.
Mr. Deeds, the boys here wanted me to say a little something. Just want me to say that, well, they want me to say that we think you're swell, and that's no baloney.
Say something more.
Give me a chance, fellas. We're all down and out. A fella like you comes along, it kind of gives us a little hope. They just want me to say that I believe...
Pace is what's so fantastic about it. Just when you're listening to that, bang, here come the cops.
Warrant for your arrest. You'll have to come along with us.
What's up? What do you monks want?
I don't know nothing, buddy. All I know is the sheriff gives me an insanity warrant to execute.
Insanity? Who says he's insane?
The complainant is a relative of the late Martin Semple. The charges are that Mr. Deeds is insane and incapable of handling the estate.
Somebody got panic-stricken about his giving his dough away, huh? Well, where do you think you're going to take him?
County hospital.
Of course, that's only temporary. A hearing will follow immediately.
That's fine. Just because I want to give this money to people who need it, they think I'm crazy. That's marvelous. That makes everything complete.
Let's get it going.
Wait a minute, not so fast. We're going to get a lawyer. I'll call Cedar.
No, don't bother.
As a matter of fact, I'm from Mr. Cedar's office. He represents the complainant.
Let's go. We're wasting a lot of time.
All right, I'll go, but get your hands off me.
Come on, get back.
Echoes of the scene. This picture, American Madness, It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. Smith. There's always that scene. And he has to rise above all of that.
Everybody in town has been here to see him. Yes, sir, I will. Goodbye. Hey, sorry, lady. Oh, it's you again.
Oh, please, I've got to see
Now,
him.
listen, sister, for the 14th and last time, he don't want to see nobody.
Well, will you just give him my name?
Listen, Toots, just between us, there ain't a thing in the world the matter with that guy till I mention your name. Then he goes haywire. What are you going to do? Just sit back and let them railroad you? It's as pretty a frame-up as ever hit this rotten town. If you just let me get you a lawyer. You can't walk into that courtroom without being ready to protect yourself in the clinches. Cedar's too smart. With the array of talent he's got lined up against you, you're cooked. Listen, pal, I know just how you feel. A blonde in Syracuse put me through the same paces. I came out with a sour puss, but full of fight. Come on. You don't want to lay down now. Do you realize what's happening? They're trying to prove that you're not.
Somebody once said about my father's films that the endings may be happy, but he really makes you pay for it.
Go on, sit down, won't you? Yes, sir. So long, Mr. Capra.
Corny, listen, I've got to see him. I've got to talk to him.
Haven't you done enough damage already?
Somebody's got to help him. He hasn't a chance against Cedar. Look, I've been all over town talking to everybody. I've got Mac all lined up and the papers behind him. I can get him Livingston, too. With a lawyer like Livingston, he's got a fighting chance.
You're wasting your time. He doesn't want any lawyers. He's sunk so low he doesn't want help from anybody. You can take a bow for that. A sweller guy has ever hit this town, and you crucified him for a couple of stinking headlines. You've done your bit. Now stay out of his way.
In the sanity hearing, a couple of words that were used in the script have worked their way into the English dictionaries. One is pixelated, and the other is doodling. Both of those words were new when this picture was made, invented by the writer.
Here he is.
Cedar just sent for me, wants to make a settlement. Here's your chance to get out of the whole mess. What do you say?
Rise, please. Supreme Court, State of New York, County of New York, Special Term, Part 9, now in session, the Honorable Judge Mills, Judge presiding. Be seated.
The court wishes to warn those present it will tolerate no disturbances. Regarding the sanity hearing of Longfellow Deeds. You represented by counsel, Mr. Deeds? No counsel to me? Okay.
Audiences loved this picture because in some ways Mr. Deeds embodied all the rebellion and individual dignity that the audiences felt. And they were able to identify with him in many, many ways.
Crazy.
Proceed.
And in the interest of my client, the only other living relative of the late Martin W. Semple, we cannot permit a fortune so huge to be dissipated by a person whose incompetency and abnormality we shall prove beyond any reasonable doubt. I have before me a series of articles written by a newspaper woman who was an eyewitness to his conduct ever since he came to New York. She tells how in the midst of a normal conversation he would suddenly begin playing his tuba. She tells of his attack upon several of our eminent writers for no apparent reason. I myself, unable to keep pace with his mental quirks and constantly fearful of assault, turned down an opportunity to represent him as his attorney. This newspaper woman, whom we have subpoenaed to testify, tells how we held up traffic for an hour feeding donuts to a poor horse. We have photographs to substantiate this little episode. Another photograph showing Mr. Deeds jumping aboard a fire engine. This scarcely sounds like the action of a man in whom the disposition of $20 million may safely be entrusted. The writer of these articles, a woman whose intelligence and integrity in the newspaper world is unquestioned, held him in such contempt that she quite aptly named him the Cinderella Man. We have witnesses here from Mandrake Falls, his own hometown, who will tell of his conduct throughout his lifetime, proving that his derangement is neither a recent nor a temporary one. We have others who will tell of his unusual behavior when he invited the great leaders of the musical world to his home and then proceeded to forcibly eject them.
I hope you can explain that.
Only recently, when he was in the county hospital for observation, he not only refused to be examined by these gentlemen, the state psychiatrists, but he actually made a violent attack upon them. In these times, with the country incapacitated by economic ailments and in danger with an undercurrent of social unrest, the promulgation of such a weird, fantastic, and impractical plan as contemplated by the defendant is capable of fomenting a disturbance from which
Almost every film made money during the Depression. It was a place to go to forget their cares, forget what's going on around them. And so the box offices the box office grosses during the Depression were pretty high. I think that began to play a little bit on my dad too, because they began to feel a little guilty here. They were making all this money, and most of the people in the country were having a really hard time. So that was another thing that I think drew him to this project. It was the message of a simple, honest man who's driven into a corner by some predatory elements, can, if he will, reach deep into his God-given resources, and with some courage and some wit always, and love, can overcome. It's, again, the individual being pushed down by all these forces is able to, by some means within himself, overcome them. I think that theme, coupled with the idea that it was about money, about a man who inherits all this money and doesn't really want it and doesn't really care about it, whereas a lot of people around him seem to want it very much, I think was a very intriguing theme to my dad.
Were you given an assignment to follow the activities of Longfellow Deeds?
Yes.
Did you subsequently write a series of articles about him?
Yes.
Are these the articles?
Yes.
Were you present when all these things took place?
Yes.
Are they true?
No.
But they did take place.
They're colored just to make him look silly.
And you saw them happen?
Yes,
That's
but
all, Miss Bennett?
It isn't all.
That's all,
I'd
Miss
like to
Bennett.
explain
Your Honor, I submit these
Let
articles
go
as
of
evidence.
me. What kind of a hearing is this? What are you trying to do, persecute the man? He's not defending himself. Somebody's got to do it.
Miss Bennett, please.
I've got a right to be heard. I've attended dozens of cases like this. They're usually conducted without any formality at all. Anybody can be heard. My opinion's as good as these quack psychiatrists. I know him better than they do.
Miss Bennett, if you have quite finished, I should like to inform you that one more utterance from you and I shall place you under arrest. I'm willing to hear anything anyone has to say, but I insist upon it being done in an orderly fashion. When you have learned to show some respect for this court, you may return. Until then, you'd better go back to your seat and calm down.
This way, miss.
My father won an Oscar for this picture as the best director, but he was disappointed that neither Gary Cooper, who was nominated, nor Robert Riskin, the writer, was nominated. Neither one of them won. And he always felt that somehow the Academy overlooked an absolutely marvelous performance by Mr. Cooper and a wonderfully written script by Bob Riskin.
Mr. Deeds. Mark these Exhibit A for the plaintiff.
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed.
They're rather timid, Your Honor, and wish to be together. If the court pleases, I'll only have one testify.
Yes, let's get on with it.
What is your name, please?
Jane Faulkner. This is my sister, Amy.
Yes, Amy.
Well, I'll direct my questions to you, Miss Jane. You may answer for both. Do you know the defendant, Mr. Longfellow Deeds?
Oh, yes. Yes, of course we know him.
How long have you known him?
Since he was born.
Yes, Elsie Taggart was the midwife.
He was a 7 months baby.
Thank you. That's fine. Do you see him very often?
Most every day.
Sometimes twice.
Must we have the echo?
Suppose you just answer, Miss Jane. Now, will you tell the court what everybody at home thinks of Longfellow Deeds?
They think he's pixelated.
Oh, yes, pixelated.
He's what?
What was that you said he was?
Pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's rather a strange word to us, Miss Jane. Can you tell the court exactly what it means?
H.B. Warner was a very famous leading man, and he played in DeMille's picture King of Kings. He played Christ, and he was one of the most elegant, famous actors, and he fell on pretty hard times. And my father hired him. He was the judge here. He was in Mr. Smith. He was one of the leading senators that were sitting towards Mr. Smith.
Anything else?
And in It's a Wonderful Life, he hired him too as the druggist. It's a funny thing, he always said that, that he would have been a forgotten actor, because when he could no longer do sort of leading man roles, and there was no work for him. And yet, my father, typically with his little group of people that he thought were very fine actors, he would continually rehire them for different pictures. But H.B. Warner was a kind of a special situation of an actor who he knew had been a wonderful actor and well-known, and who he always managed to find a place for.
He threw us out bodily, but bodily.
We was hired as his bodyguard, see? Well, the first crack out of the box, he throws us in a room and locks the door, see? Now, if a thing like that gets around our profession, why, we get devoid, see? So I says to my partner, let's quit this guy. He's nuts.
I'm very fond of Clara, sir. She's a nice horse. And when this bloke here started feeding her donuts, I yelled down to him, mind what you're doing down there. Mind what you're doing. Of course, I wouldn't mind, sir. But Clara won't eat nothing but donuts now.
And now, Your Honor, if the court pleases, I shall call upon Dr. Emil von Haller, if he will be good enough to give us his opinion. Dr. von Haller, as you know, is the eminent Austrian psychiatrist, probably the greatest authority in the subject in the world. At present, he's in this country on a lecture tour and has graciously volunteered his services. Dr. von Haller. Dr. von Haller.
Solemnly swear testimony you may give in the court.
Casting is always something that was very critical in my father's pictures. He was very careful about every single part. For him, there were no small parts. Even a small part is on the screen for whatever moments of time that it is. It's the center of attention, and it's therefore the star at the moment. And he treated his actors accordingly, and he was very careful about his casting, and he cast his smallest parts with just as much care and effort and thought as he did his largest parts. He also made the actors know that he cared greatly about them, and the fact that he cared about his actors brought wonderful performances from them. And I think the body of his work shows that. He used a lot of actors more than once, actors that he knew he could trust and that he liked, and they trusted him and they liked him, and they knew they were in good hands, and they knew that he would be careful and never bring them to a situation where they were uncomfortable or wrong for seeing.
This day, a state of highest exaltation. Here everything is fine. Here the world is beautiful. Here they are so elated, how to express it? They would give you their shirts off their backs.
Dr. von Haller, how would you say that applied to Mr. Deeds' case?
The symptoms are obvious. While he was here, on top of the wave, he felt nothing but kindliness and warmth toward his fellow men. He wanted to have them around him, so he decided to give a big reception. But in the meantime, his mood has changed. He's now at the bottom of the wave, depressed, melancholy. So when his guests arrive, he throws them out. They are now his imaginary enemies. Other instances of high elations are when he plays his tuba, when he writes his poetry, when he chases fire engines in the desire to help humanity. This is contrasted with his present mood, which is so low that even the instinct for self-preservation is lacking. Oh, der Mann ist verrückt. Your Honor, this is decidedly a case of manic depressive.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Your Honor, we rest.
Come on, what are you going to do? Let him get away with it? They got you cooked.
So.
Mr. Deeds, Before the court arrives at a decision, isn't there anything you wish to say?
Come on, don't be a sap.
You both can come. Mr. Deeds, in view of the extensive testimony, your continued silence, and on the recommendation of the doctors, the court considers it advisable for your own safety that you be committed to an institution as prescribed by law.
I know he worked hard to get where he went. I mean, he always felt that, you know, he paid his dues to get to where he was. I don't think that was the guilt. I think there was a certain amount of feelings in terms of the Depression, in the sense that the industry was so successful in the face of this, you know, of these people starving. And the films became an escapist bit of an hour and a half or 2 hours that you could go. I think the fact that they made so much money at the time, that began to wear on him a little bit. You know, American Madness is set in the Depression. This picture has specific tones of that. Meet John Doe has. I think it bothered him about the way this great country that he had come to in early 1900s and got his education, and, you know, really he was able to do things that he could have never possibly done in Europe, or in Sicily especially, where he was born. So I think he began to see that the country was failing, and I think he felt he didn't understand that, because the country's the greatest country in the world. It has freedom, has votes, democracy, all of these things which enter into these pictures. He didn't see how that could happen, and so I think he always felt that the strength of the individual eventually would will out, and the individual. It's funny in the way he handled crowds too. In The Ride in the Rain, you have individuals, but at the same time you have this huge mass of people, and I think he saw the ability of individuals to be moved and to take actions that they wouldn't normally take. All those guys out there, well, they all have kind of similar stories, and they're all there, and they're waiting for their farm, and they're waiting for that. And there were reviews of the time that were, like accused him of being some kind of a socialist and some kind of a crazy idea that somehow this was intended to be a political tract, which of course was certainly not what he intended or what he really cared about. I think he cared about the individual. It was a story about an individual able to rise up and overcome all these obstacles. The only weak part of this film is that the heavy is not a strong heavy. And the next films, he corrected that. This is kind of the first of the three pictures that are considered to be similar in his work. Mr. Deeds and Mr. Smith and Meet John Doe. A lot of parallels in all of them.
I don't know where
this was the first of them.
So many things said about me that about my playing the tuba. Seems like a lot of fuss has been made about that. If a man's crazy just because he plays the tuba, then somebody better look into it, because there are a lot of tuba players running around loose. Of course, I don't see any harm in it. I play mine whenever I want to concentrate. That may sound funny to some people, but everybody does something silly when they're thinking. For instance, the judge here is an O-filler.
A what?
An O filler. You fill in all the spaces in the O's with your pencil. I was watching you. That may make you look a little crazy, Your Honor, just sitting around filling in O's, but I don't see anything wrong because that helps you think. Other people are doodlers.
Doodlers?
Yeah, that's a name we made up back home for people who make foolish designs on paper when they're thinking. It's called doodling. Almost everybody's a doodler. Did you ever see a scratch pad in a telephone booth? People draw the most idiotic pictures when they're thinking. Dr. Von Haller here could probably think up a long name for it because he doodles all the time. Thank you. This is a piece of paper he was scribbling on. I can't figure it out. One minute it looks like a chimpanzee, and the next minute it looks like a picture of Mr. Cedar. You look at it, Judge. Exhibit A for the defense. Looks kind of stupid, doesn't it, Your Honor? But I guess that's all right. If Dr. Von Haller has to doodle to help him think, that's his business. Everybody does something different. Some people are ear pullers. Some are nail biters. That, Mr. Semple over there is a nose twitcher. And the lady next to him is a knuckle cracker. So you see, everybody does silly things to help them think. Well, I play the tuba.
Nice work, Toots. Oh, Your Honor, this is becoming farcical. I demand that Mr. Deeds dispense with side remarks and confine himself to facts. Let him explain his wanderings around the street in his underclothes, his feeding donuts to horses.
Please. Proceed.
Mr. Cedar's right. Those things do look kind of bad, don't they? But to tell you the truth, Your Honor, I don't remember them. I guess they happened all right because I don't think a policeman would lie about a thing like that. But I was drunk. It was the first time I was ever drunk in my life. It's probably happened to you sometime. I mean when you were younger, of course. It's likely to happen to anybody. Just the other morning, I read in the paper about Mr. Cedar's own son, about how he got drunk and insisted on driving a taxi cab while the driver sat inside. Isn't that so, Mr. Cedar? Isn't that so, Mr. Cedar?
Your Honor, I object.
Proceed. Now, now about the Faulkner sisters. That's kind of funny. I mean about Mr. Cedar going all the way to Mandrake Falls to bring them here. Do you mind if I talk to them?
Not at all.
Jane, who owns the house you live in?
Why, you own it, Longfellow. Yes, you own it.
Do you pay any rent?
No, we don't pay any rent. Good heavens, no. We never pay rent.
Are you happy there?
Oh, yes, yes, indeed.
Now, Jane, a little while ago you said I was pixelated. Do you still think so?
Why, you've always been pixelated, Longfellow. Always?
That's fine. I guess maybe I am. Now tell me something, Jane. Who else in Mandrake Falls is pixelated?
Why, everybody in Mandrake Falls is pixelated, except us.
Now, just one more question. You see the judge here. He's a nice man, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's pixelated?
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
Mr. Deeds,
you haven't yet touched upon the most important point. This rather fantastic idea of yours to want to give away your entire fortune is, to say the least, most uncommon.
Oh, yes, I was getting to that, Your Honor. Suppose you were living in a small town and getting along fine, and suddenly somebody dropped $20 million in your lap. Supposing you discovered that all that money was messing up your life, was bringing a lot of vultures around your neck and making you lose faith in everybody. You'd be a little worried, wouldn't you? You'd feel that you had a hot potato in your hand, and you'd want to drop it. I guess Dr. Von Haller here would say you were riding on those bottom waves because you wanted to drop something that was burning your fingers.
If this man is permitted to carry out his plan, repercussions will be felt that will rock the foundation of our entire governmental system.
Please, Mr. Cedar. Proceed.
Personally, I don't know what Mr. Cedar's raving about. From what I can see, no matter what system of government we have, there'll always be leaders and always be followers. It's like the road out in front of my house. It's on a steep hill. Every day I watch the cars climbing up. Some go lickety-split up that hill on high, some have to shift in the second, and some sputter and shake and slip back to the bottom again. Same cars, same gasoline, yet some make it and some don't. And I say, the fellows who can make the hill on high should stop once in a while and help those who can't. That's all I'm trying to do with this money, help the fellows who can't make the hill on high. What does Mr. Cedar expect me to do with it? Give it to him and a lot of other people who don't need it? If you don't mind, Your Honor, I'll ride on those top waves for a minute. Hey, all you fellas up there. All those who applied for a farm, stand up. See all those fellas? They're the ones I'm trying to help. They need it. Mr. Cedar and that Mr. Semple don't need anything. They've got plenty. It's like I'm out in a big boat and I see one fella in a rowboat who's tired of rowing and wants a free ride, and another fellow who's drowning. Who would you expect me to rescue? Mr. Cedar, who's just tired of rowing and wants a free ride, or those men out there who are drowning? Any 10-year-old child will give you the answer to that. All right, fellas, thank you. Sit down. Now, my plan was very simple. I was going to give each family 10 acres, a horse, a cow, and some seed, and if they work the farm for 3 years, it's theirs. Now, if that's crazy, maybe I ought to be sent to an institution. But I don't think it is, and what's more, Mr. Cedar doesn't either. Just before the hearing started, he offered to call the whole thing off if I made a settlement with him. So you see, he wouldn't think I was crazy if he got paid off.
It's a lie. Mr. Deeds is drawing in his warped imagination. I never heard anything so colossally stupid in my life. It's an insult to our intelligence to sit here and listen to such childish ravings.
Will please permit Mr. Deeds to finish?
But, Your Honor.
Consider. Anything else, Mr. Deeds?
No. Yes. There's just one more thing I'd like to get off my chest before I finish.
Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And another thing that is interesting in this picture is more in another picture called American Madness, which he had done before Lady for Day. He had a big run on the bank scene. And for his little studio like Columbia, crowd scenes were expensive because you were paying all those extras. And yet he was able to do some pretty large and effective crowd scenes on the budgets that he was given. This is another picture that had quite a good handling of crowd, the crowd in the courtroom, crowds outside.
There has been a great deal of damaging testimony against you. Your behavior, to say the least, has been most strange. But in the opinion of the court, you are not only sane, but you're the sanest man that ever walked into this courtroom.
You nose twitcher. I knew it. You.
You can see why this picture was such a huge hit with audiences all over the world. And the picture continues to be seen in video, and it still continues to sell very well and outside the United States. It translates very well to all other languages.
isolated.
He sure is.